For 20 years, the New England Patriots reigned supreme over the entire NFL. Through that time, they received mixed reviews. Some loved the team, some didn't. Some loved Belichick, some didn't. Some loved Brady, some didn't. Yet through it all, one man had a 100% approval rating: Robert James Gronkowski. There will never be another Gronk. Rob Gronkowski dominated the NFL, and he did it all with a huge smile on his face. Gronk breathed energy and life into football itself, from the dancing to the Gronk spiking. As he hangs up his cleats in retirement, a sad realization is set in. We have seen the last of the greatest tight ends in NFL history. In this video, I will prove Gronk's GOAT status through a look at his skill set, his statistics, and a comparison to that of Tony Gonzalez. Before I go on with that though, make sure to Gronk spike the like button. Sorry, Mitch. Subscribe to this channel for more NFL content and follow my social medias in the description below. If you understand Gronk's game and what he adds to your team as a player, in essence, there is no real argument to be had. No player at the tight end position was more complete than Gronk. He was the gold standard for what tight ends should be. 6'6", 265 guys should not be able to pluck passes off their shoelaces and turn them into receptions, nor should they be as much of a downfield threat as Gronk was. He retired with a higher yards per target mark than Randy Moss and Tyreek Hill, the two greatest deep threats of all time. At his peak, nobody could touch Gronk, grading as the top tight ends by Pro Football Focus in every season from 2011 to 2017. The respect he demanded from opposing defensive coaches was that of no other tight end ever. Take the play Hoss-Wide Juke in Super Bowl 53. Wade Phillips had to honor the fact that the Patriots may run the ball, simply because the Patriots had Gronk. Typically, teams that showed that look offensively will run first, so for the Patriots to run that play on the biggest drive of the season speaks volumes to Gronk's unique ability. He was the first tight end to truly merge the traits of being an elite receiver with being an elite blocker, and we've seen guys like George Kittle and Mark Andrews follow that similar archetype after him being the standard bearer. From 2010 to 2018, the Patriots offense ranked first in EPA per play, success rate, EPA per dropback, second in dropback success rate, and first in both EPA per rush and rush success rate. In 2019, the year after Gronk's original retirement, each of those statistics fell off, despite the fact that the Patriots returned Tom Brady, James White, Sony Michel, Julian Edelman, star guards Joe Thuney and Shaq Mason, and Josh McDaniels. That shows the impact on the Patriots offense even a hobbled and past prime 2018 Gronk had. He was still dominant as a blocker, and due to his receiving capability, he'd suck the attention from opposing defenses and allow the other Patriot pass targets more space and easier matchups. Without Gronk, the Patriots' pass and run game became much easier to game plan for and limit. Even Tom Brady, the greatest quarterback of all time, has had his life made significantly easier by the presence of Rob Gronkowski. When taking a look at Brady's splits with and without Gronk since 2010, Gronk's rookie season, it looks as though it's two different quarterbacks. He emulated the elite traits of the legends of the position that came before him. He was a great one-on-one go-up-and-get-it receiver like Gonzalez, a red zone scoring machine like Gates, a mauler in the run game like Witten, a clutch performer like Sharp, all rolled into one. If you were to create a tight end from scratch in a lab, you'd ask them to be tall and strong, yet still quick, fast, and agile, with extraordinary ability after the catch. You'd ask them to be the ultimate receiving threat, between long but powerful strides down the middle of the field, elite route running relative to size, huge and reliable hands, and unlimited catch radius, and combine all of that with being an all-time great blocker at the position. That is what Rob Gronkowski was, only with an added element of personality and fearlessness that got the best out of his own and his teammates' abilities. Not only is Gronk the most talented tight end to ever play the game, but he is the best statistically as well. I already know what you're going to say, but Gronk doesn't lead all time in yards, receptions, or touchdowns. How can he be the best? And while you're absolutely correct that Gronk isn't the leader in all of those categories, we can examine more than just volume stats before definitively saying someone is or is not best at their position statistically. For his career, Gronk's 16-game pace was 70 receptions, 1,049 yards, and 10 touchdowns. For his prime from 2011 to 2017, his 16-game pace was 80 receptions, 1,234 yards, and 12 touchdowns. That yards mark would place him 10th all-time in single-season receiving yards among tight ends, and the touchdown mark would place him 8th all-time in single-season touchdowns, more than Tony Gonzalez, Shannon Sharpe, Dave Casper, or Jason Witten ever caught in a single season. Gronk's 4 1,000-yard seasons has him tied for second among tight ends behind Travis Kelce, and he was on pace to match the feat again in 2012, 2013, 2016, and 2021, which would have given him 8. His 5 double-digit touchdown seasons are an NFL record for tight ends, and his 17 touchdowns in 2011 are still an NFL record for most touchdown catches for a tight end in a single season. Even from a career perspective, Gronk impresses. He ranks 5th all-time for career receiving yards among tight ends, the top 4 each having played at least 45 more games than him. He ranks 3rd to Antonio Gates and Gonzalez in career receiving touchdowns with 92, but Gates played 93 more career games than Gronk, and Gonzalez played 128 more. Gronk not only does well in the traditional stats, but he excels in advanced stats as well. Like I said earlier, Gronk ranked as the top tight end according to PFF in every season from 2011 to 2017, earning a grade of at least 90 in each season. The only player with a longer streak of 90-plus overall grades than Gronk in the PFF era that tracks all the way back to 2006 is Aaron Donald, with 8 consecutive seasons. Only 16 times has a tight end ended the regular season with a PFF grade of 90+. Gronk has 7 of those 16 seasons, by far the most of any player. PFF also tracks a player's yards per route run, which takes into account the number of snaps a player went into a pass pattern, which provides a better indicator of production than yards per reception. In that metric, Gronk has 8 top 5 finishes, including ranking first 4 times while never falling lower than 15th. He has 7 of the top 22 yards per route run seasons ever for a tight end. Again, though, Gronk was just as dominant as a blocker as he was a receiver. At the time of his original retirement in 2019, he had a pass blocking grade of 72.6 and a run blocking grade of 88.7. He had a run blocking grade of above 80 in 4 seasons, including back-to-back number 1 finishes in 2011 and in 2012, and a second-place finish in 2015. He had a pass blocking grade of 80.3 in 2016, which ranked him 8th that season. Even looking further than PFF, Gronk's advanced analytics continue to impress. He finished in the top 3 of Football Outsiders DYAR, a stack that tracks overall value 6 times, including number 1 finishes in 2011, 2014, and 2017. Gronk's 461 DYAR in that aforementioned 2011 season remains the highest single-season DYAR among any tight ends by far since 1981, which is as far back as the stat has been tracked. His 2017 season also ranks 7th all-time in DYAR, being the only player with multiple top 7 seasons in history at the position, naturally. Looking at DYAR's sister stat DVOA, which tracks value per play, Gronk finished within the top 3 5 times and had back-to-back number 1 finishes in 2011 and 2012. Gronk's 2011 remains the greatest tight end season of all time. His expected points added of 113.3 that season is first all time, 21.5 points ahead of Travis Kelce's 2020 season, which ranks second. As of February 2021, Gronk had 4 seasons within the top 10 all-time of expected points added. In NumberFire's net expected points metric, which goes back to 2000, the results are similar, with Gronk's 2011 season reigning supreme at the top and taking 4 of the top 15 spots. When looking at the total NEP for the top tight ends of the century, Gronk's efficiency stands out even more. Kelce's per-year number ranks slightly ahead of Gronk, but his per-game number falls vastly short. When comparing the peaks of those players, Gronk's total NEP nearly comes out on top despite playing the fewest amount of games, and his NEP per game is by far first. This data is again as of February 2021. The crazy thing about Gronk is, despite being a tight end, he ranks 5th all-time in yards per target among all players with at least 500 career targets, easily first among all tight ends with an outstanding 9.67 yards per target. Because he was so big and so versatile, he could be used in more ways than others. That's his biggest edge over Kelce to me, other than the blocking. Not only is Gronk the best regular season tight end ever statistically, but he was almost as clutch as his best friend and made just as big of an impact in the playoffs as he did the regular season. He essentially maintains his per-game stats from regular season to postseason for his career. He ranks second only to Kelce in playoff receptions among tight ends and leads all tight ends in playoff receiving yards and touchdowns. When including receivers, Gronk ranks 4th all-time in receptions, 3rd all-time in yards, and 2nd all-time in touchdowns. For his career in the Super Bowl, Gronk is easily first among all tight ends in every major category and ranks 2nd all-time in receptions, yards, and touchdowns overall, all to another GOAT. There is a laundry list of elite performances and big moments from Gronkowski, and it'd take too long to name them all, but 2 in particular stand out in a career of standout big game performances. The first came in the 2015 season, January 24th, 2016. AFC Championship, Patriots-Broncos, Brady Manning, in a raucous Mile High Stadium. The banged up and vulnerable but still formidable Patriots are attempting to reach a 2nd straight Super Bowl against a Denver team that boasts a top 10 defense of all time. The Patriots, down 20-12, have been lethargic offensively all game long and are now set up in a 4th and 10 at midfield with 1:34 remaining. With the season on the line, Brady drops a dime in the perfect position to a double-covered Gronk, who makes a miraculous catch to haul the pass in at the 10-yard line and save the Patriots' season. 4 plays later, and now out of timeouts with 17 seconds remaining, the Patriots were again in a do-or-die situation. On 4th and 4 with the season again on the line, Brady looks for Gronk, who brilliantly found an open space at the back of the end zone between 2 Denver defenders and hauled in the pass for a touchdown. Brady to Gronk had saved the Patriots again, at least momentarily. The Pats failed to convert the 2-point conversion and lost 20-18, but 8 catches, 144 yards, and an ultra-clutch touchdown saw Gronk's legacy grow. The seconds came in the 2017 season, when the 10-3 Patriots took a trip to Heinz Field to face the 11-2 Pittsburgh Steelers in a game that would essentially decide the number 1 seed in what was built as the game of the year. The Pats were down 24-19 and facing a 2nd and 10 at their own 23 with 2:01 remaining when Brady found Gronk for 26 yards over the middle of the field, badly beating Steelers safety Sean Davis. Brady fired another 26-yard completion down the middle for Gronk, who once again humiliated Davis to set New England up at the Pittsburgh 25. Gronk again embarrassed Davis, this time for 17 yards to Pittsburgh's 8, before opening a hole for Dion Lewis to run right through and scored the lead-changing touchdown. On the 2-point conversion, Gronk beat Davis for the 4th time on the drive on a fade route, hauling the pass in to give the Patriots a 27-24 lead. The game would be most remembered for the Jesse James controversy on the next drive, but Gronk's 5-play sequence on that touchdown drive might be the greatest 5-play sequence in NFL history, and is a perfect representation for his overall career dominance against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now for the comparison to the other widely considered GOAT, Tony Gonzalez. I want to establish this. I have nothing but respect for what Tony Gonzalez accomplished in his career, as I do with Shannon Sharpe and Antonio Gates and Travis Kelce, and all of the other legendary tight ends throughout NFL history. They are all gifts to the game of football in their own ways and are all deserving Hall of Fame or future Hall of Fame players. But Gronk was different. While Gonzalez played 127 more games and 6 more seasons than Gronk, giving him advantages in every single volume stat category in the regular season, he still couldn't match Gronk's dominance. When comparing their per game, per 17 game, and career high stats, Gronk kills Gonzalez in almost every single category. It gets even more embarrassing when comparing their stats during their primes and 3-year peaks. Oh yeah, and Gronk has everything in the playoffs over Gonzalez. Oh yeah, and while Gronk was a dominant blocker, Gonzalez was a merely solid one, only grading as a top 10 run blocker once to Gronk's 4 seasons. With all due respect, this debate is not much of a debate at all, but rather a coronation to Rob Gronkowski, the more complete and dominant player. He did this all with a beaten, battered, and broken down body that resulted in over 2 full seasons worth of missed games. Why? Because Gronk put in 110% effort on every snap of every game in every season. He could have not tried to reach down for every catch, not tried to break every tackle, not blocked as hard with the mentality he did, all to preserve his body. And if he did, he'd probably still have been a great player. But if he did, he wouldn't be the GOAT. Gronk was as fun and charismatic a personality as the NFL has ever seen throughout its 100-plus year history. And yet, buried underneath that $1 million smile was one of the smartest football players of all time. Gronk knew from his dominant performance on Sunday night in his rookie 2010 season against Pittsburgh that he would be great no matter where he played. But instead of asking for bigger contracts or demanding more targets, Gronk realized that he hadn't made in New England, being coached by the greatest ever and catching passes from the greatest ever, Tom Brady. Brady and Gronk were soulmates. From the cringe Instagram videos, to the commercials, to Gronk following Brady to Tampa, to the telepathic connection they shared on the football field. Brady and Gronk are in the Montana and Rice and Manning and Harrison conversation for greatest quarterback receiving weapon combination of all time. Tom Brady has thrown 90 career touchdowns to Rob Gronkowski. The next closest player has caught 51 fewer touchdown passes from Brady. Brady and Gronk have the most playoff touchdowns from a quarterback weapon duo with 15. Brady's passer rating when targeting Gronk was 133.7 through 2016, the highest of any quarterback weapon duo from 2007 to 2016, according to PFF. Had it not been for Rob Gronkowski, I truly believe Tom Brady would have retired long before his likely actual retirement sometime in 2023. With Randy Moss leaving in the 2010 offseason, the Patriots needed another physically dominant and explosive weapon to pair with legendary slot receiver Wes Welker to rekindle some of the magic of the 2007 offense. Enter Rob Gronkowski, and the 2010, 2011, and 2012 Patriot offenses operated at a historic pace, with Gronk being the featured weapon. More than anything, though, he made Brady's life fun. His beguiling and entertaining personality breathed life into Brady, and they developed into best friends over the years because of it. It is no coincidence that Brady has looked/seemed miserable without Gronk in 2019, and really ever since Gronk's retirement around 2 months ago. Gronk made Brady a better player on the field and made his life more enjoyable off of it. I never got to see Jerry or Primetime Live. I never got to see Joe Cool or The Minister in action, but I got to watch Gronk, the 4-time Super Bowl champion, the greatest tight ends in NFL history, and the most unique and entertaining personality the NFL has seen. Thank you, Rob Gronkowski. You made the league a better place.